What do you make of all of these countries coming out 3 years into, or 2.5 years into a genocide, saying, hey, we think this is bad. We're going to walk out of Netanyahu when he gives a speech. We want a two-state solution, et cetera, et cetera. Do you put any weight behind this at all, or is this entirely just to kind of take steam out of the oven, in a sense? Meaning you have populations that are very angry and upset that their governments are backing a genocide. And you have the leaders coming out saying, okay, now we want a two-state solution, something that I consider to be a shiny object. But you guys may have a different take on this. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I'm going to let Larry give you the scholarly, portion of this, but I just give you, plain talk and, for the American people and the world to understand. I've heard this old saying, putting lipstick on a pig.
Yes. Yeah.
Think about that for a moment.
That's pretty scholarly.
Yeah. What is going to be left of Gaza to have a state?
Exactly. These people are they're walking on eggshells with their people. They're all toast. They're dead men walking, except maybe, Mark Carney's not. But they're grasping at straws at the last minute, and they know that this is not going to come to fruition. Richard Haas wrote an article several weeks ago. My old boss at the policy planning staff at State Department, now head of the Council on Foreign Relations, he wrote an article saying that the two-state solution was still possible. All I could do the whole time I was reading it was, how are you going to get 875,000 entrenched Israeli settlers, each one of them with a shotgun, automatic weapon, and Uzi furnished by the IDF? How are you going to get them to move? Are you going to bring 60,000 Chinese in there and armed to the teeth and pick them up by the scruff of the neck and put them back into Israel proper? I mean, how are you going to do that, Richard? Richard used to come into things to Secretary Powell, and Powell would come into my office and he would say, holding what Richard had given him and shaking it, how am I supposed to operationalize this, Larry? Because, Richard just has these thoughts, but you could not cause two states to come into being now. You just couldn't. And if you did, if you somehow overcame these overwhelming odds, like the settlers in the West Bank, Civil War. And I might add the settlers that are going to be in Gaza, hundreds of them, if not thousands of them, very quickly. Even if you could, the two states would be constantly at each other's throat, constantly. Yeah. And you already have that periodically, but at least in the periodicity, you have a situation that is controllable, manageable. It's just gotten out of control now because of Bibi Netanyahu and the assemblage of people he's brought in around him, like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and the others, who are not satisfied until Israel owns half of the Levant. I'm telling you, that's their goal. They want to own half of Levant, and they want to destroy Iran, utterly destroy it. And when they go to do that, and Jamal, they're going to do it before Thanksgiving and expect us to follow them, and this idiot of a president probably will, that's going to be the end of Israel as a Jewish state, maybe as any kind of entity. And it's going to be the beginning of the unraveling of the American empire, because Iran is not going to go quietly into that dark war.
And let me just say this, Jamal, and the Ayatollah is already saying that you can forget us getting rid of our nuclear program. We put too much in it, and we're not going to do it, so you can forget that. That's dead on arrival. That's going to give Israel the so-called rationale and excuse. You mentioned my book earlier, and Larry's mentioned this, and others have mentioned this too now, is that Iran is the last piece of Bibi's plan. It is the last piece, and he's going to do whatever he can to get us in a war with Iran. Now, when Larry also mentioned about the end of Israel and the end of the so-called empire, Bibi is already trying to start something with China.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all I can tell you, Jamal, just from opinion, assumption, this is a catastrophe. These leaders that are coming out now talking about it's too late. It'll take years to rebuild Gaza now. What do you do with the people? You look at Egypt; it already said, "Hey, they're not coming over here. You're getting a red line from us right now. We're already, putting forces in place." The other thing, Bibi thinks, that he's going to be able to convince Trump. He said, "Okay, guys, if you want to declare a two-state solution, okay, I'm going to give you my answer. Oh, by the way, once I talk to Trump."
Yeah.
Colonel Wilkerson, you've met Bibi Netanyahu. What do you make of his influence, or do you think it's influence on Trump? I mean, I have to be honest with you. From my point of view, a colony of 8 million is not controlling a country of 300 million. I think this is U.S. policy, but it does seem to be some level of influence, especially in the Iran thing. It didn't, and let me explain what I mean by that. When the war took place between Israel and Iran, Trump seemed to be perfectly content with allowing Israel to hit Iran, believing that, okay, they can have a decapitation strike. It was almost as if a conversation was had and it was like, hey, we can take out the leadership of Iran. Trump comes out crowing immediately after the attack takes place. Within a day or so, when it becomes clear, oh, this is not going according to plan, and Israel takes the worst beating of its life, not to mention running out of air defense. Well, at that point, Trump gets involved. But if you notice, at the end of that, Trump was like, all right, it's done. All of the nuclear weapons are destroyed. We're good. We get to keep it moving. And of course, Israel was saying something completely different. Oh, this is not done. Iran still has nuclear potential, et cetera. Meaning they were saying two very different things, as if Donald Trump wanted this to be over with, whereas Israel is like, we're just beginning. I mean, what do you make of this influence? Or do you consider it influence? Or do you consider it just U.S. policy?
Let me start by explaining something about Iran, I think. You know how I feel about the empire. The empire uses Israel. Israel doesn't use the empire. But Iran right now is probably in the process of doing things that have been emanating from Tehran in the last 48 to 96 hours. And those things are very critical. One is responding to the idiots in Europe, the usual idiots, who want to implement and are going to apparently implement snapback sanctions per the JCPOA. Now, without China and Russia, they won't mean much. But it is a move that will provoke Iran to leave the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And the word is coming out of Tehran that they have decided, and the Ayatollah has more or less blessed, that the fatwa opposing nuclear weapons, which I've always thought was sincere, talked to 2 foreign ministers of Iran about it, and both of them convinced me that it was a sincere Islamic feeling, operationalized, if you will, in that fatwa, that nuclear weapons were anathema to Islam. But they're going to change that to a certain extent because the Ayatollah apparently is okay saying use of nuclear weapons is anathema. The fatwa will be changed to reflect that. That means they've made a decision to build one. I think it's already underway. And I think we will not even detect the location, nor if they should test underground, the test, should it happen. So that's where we are right now. And the key to that is kicking out the IAEA after abandoning the Non-Proliferation Treaty. I think you can look for that to happen between now and Thanksgiving, unless we do some really exquisite diplomacy. And I don't even think that would work because the Iranians have been fooled. Once, twice, 3 times, it's over for the United States and diplomacy. And Witkoff is an idiot in their mind. So that's the first thing I would say in answer to your question. The second thing I would say is that, as Dennis pointed out, Bibi is a shrewd, lying sack of crap. And he has smelled, it didn't take much to do it, but he smelled the weight that China now has, both with Iran publicly saying it will back Russian support of Iran up should Israel attack it. Publicly. He smelled that. And so now he's started about China. He's bringing China into it because he knows, despite the retrenchment type national defense strategy that Hegseth put out recently, China's still in there. And it's in there as the number one boy on the street. And so Bibi's now using China as a further enticement to get Trump to follow him into Iran, because I think he's got some doubt about whether Trump will be stupid enough to do that. But I think he will. So we're looking at, as Dennis intimated, we're looking at the end of the clean break strategy. We're looking at cleaning up that strategy, if you will, in the way that it was originally proposed by the idiots that proposed it. And we're looking at incredible misfortune for Israel. It will cease to exist. And there, I'm really worried about their using a nuclear weapon and real pain, if not diminishment majorly of our power for the empire. But it seems to me right now, this is inevitable.
What happens if Israel uses a nuclear weapon?
God only knows.
Well, whoa. You got to look at this Pakistan. They've already, put a deal with Saudi Arabia, to protect them. But they already had something, informal in place, with Iran, informally saying, hey, if they're attacked, we may come to their rescue. But let me just mention one other thing, when we're talking about negotiating. Iran has facts. Remember, opinions, assumptions, facts. They have facts not to trust us. One, yes. We overthrew their democratic elected government. We overthrew it. Two, we broke the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA. We broke that. Three, right in the middle of negotiations to restart some type of agreement, Israel and then us attacked Iran. Why should they trust us? And then finally, ever since we did attack them, I've been on record to say it would be prudent for Iran to build a nuclear weapon for their security.
Let me add to that a little bit, Jamal.
Already had one personally.
This is something that came out of the grapevine. I give it a 50-50. No, I don't. I give it a 60-40 on the positive side, or the side of it's true. Bibi called Trump and on the telephone told him he was going to use a nuclear weapon on Iranian nuclear facilities, the three places that were most significant in some way. I don't know whether that meant 3 nukes or 1 nuke centrally located, or 1 on Isfahan, for example, or 1 on Fordo, for example. And Trump told him, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I'll take care of it for you. And that's what brought in the B-2s and the big bumper buster bombs and, all the things that we did that really didn't do a whole lot, because we forewarned Iran we were going to do it. You can't make this stuff up, Jamal. You can't. And you can say Bibi was bluffing like Golda Meir was in the 73 war, that he didn't have any intent of using a nuclear weapon. And he was trying to get Trump to do it for him, and it worked. You can say that, or you can say, as I would say, Bibi was dead serious. And that takes us back to what will Israel do if it's existentially threatened, and even more to the point, if Netanyahu, politically and life-wise, is existentially threatened. Will he use a nuclear weapon? And then the question rises, and it's always arose in my mind, because I know how the IDF works, and it doesn't work this way. Normally, it doesn't work this way. It goes along with the prime minister regardless, because Israel's situation in a war, which Bibi considers this, even though it's slaughter, is the IDF never questions the prime minister. They can say things in public, they can do things in private that question his wisdom, but they never question a given order. So that's dangerous. Would the IDF stop him from using a nuclear weapon? I don't know, but the custom in the IDF is no. It's kind of like this. With Israel and the situation they've been in since 48, the prime minister is the battlefield commander. Mm-hmm. That's never the case in the United States. The president of the United States may be commander in chief in time of warfare, but his orders go down through the Secretary of Defense, looked at by the chairman now because of his position, and looked at by the executing commanders. Just think about that. That's a hell of a chain it has to go through. In Israel, no. The prime minister says kill it, it gets killed. That's the difference. And they feel like their situation in that region and in the position they're in, it has to be that way. And it's always been that way. It's dangerous as hell. That's what happened when they sunk, or didn't sink, but they killed 34, I think, U.S. sailors. Yeah. and almost sunk USS Liberty because they thought she was surveilling things that they were doing that they didn't want surveilled. And they've never done anything but pay a little reparation for that. But it was a heinous act by a supposed, non-NATO ally.
And
This
the
is
U.S.
Israel.
covered it up.
This is
And
Israel.
we covered it up.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
covered it up. Yes, but I still maintain we use them. They are our attack dog in Southwest Asia. Period.
I do agree with you.
Let me just add to that. Like I said, I want to continue to say this. This is a discussion that Larry and I have all the time. Yeah, I think that to be true in the beginning, as Joe Biden would say, if it was no Israel, we would have created it. But I think we have a situation where it's out of control. Bibi has taken advantage, and we don't know what to do with Bibi. Yeah, we were leading this, but now Bibi, we don't know what to do with him. Finally, when you were talking about a nuclear weapon or whatever, I don't know if it's real or perceived, but I do think if it all came to that, if it is real, I do think Bibi Netanyahu will use the so-called sanction option.
Same here.
I think he would try to take all of us down.
Which creates a problem.
I come down on that too. I think he will too. I don't think there's anything Bibi won't do.
Well, I mean, that's kind of an issue then. If Donald Trump is being told, hey, I'm going to use a nuke, and Trump says, okay, I'll deal with it. Well, Trump has already set the precedent that he will get militarily involved if Israel is in a conflict, meaning Israel can get into a conflict with almost perfect confidence that the United States is going to join him in that conflict, especially if he brings up, well, I'm going to use nukes. I mean, and if they're in a war with Iran and they're getting beat in that war, using nukes is always the end of that straw, right? I mean, that's always the last straw that they can pull, which, again, immediately compels the U.S. into action.
I think now it depends a lot on, maybe critically on, what do Russia and China do? Right now, I'm told the first and second and maybe third squadrons of flankers is already operational. The new equipment training team has been there for 3-4 months. The aircraft have been there for that long a time. I'm told that the S-400 missile batteries, which are probably the best air defense batteries in the world, are all now up and manned either by Russians or Iranians, in most cases dual crews. Mm-hmm. I'm told that other assets are flowing in as fast as they can flow. So you're talking about, you're not just taking on a revivified and very capable Iran. You're talking about taking on two major military powers, both of whom are nuclear armed, one of them to the teeth.
Yeah. Hey, Jamal, let me just, and I know we're getting pretty close, and we appreciate all the time and everything, but I think, I shared with someone, I'm really worried. I think we will know by next week. Bibi is threatening to annex the West Bank. He's threatening to do that in retaliation for the so-called two-state solution. If he tries to do that, it's going to be interesting to see what happens then. And so I think we need to take a look at what happens next week. And when we're talking about these conversations, well, after all this United Nations stuff takes place in New York, Bibi is going to be meeting, if he hasn't already, be meeting with Trump. And we'll see what comes out of that. And then when Bibi gets back home, we're going to know a lot.
And top that comment off, Jamal, with the fact that he's losing in Gaza. He's taking horrendous casualties in Gaza.
I saw that.
Yeah, he is. I don't think people realize.
And let me make one other comment to that, Jamal. We get going here. Let me just say this. I was speaking with someone doing some interview, and they were shocked when I said this. Larry, when he just said they're taking some hits in Gaza, I said that this is the worst mistake Bibi Netanyahu and Israel could have made, because they're going to lose this because of the fact, they're already taking hits right now. They're going to lose this, and we're going to look back and say this is the worst mistake that Bibi Netanyahu made for Israel.
I guess my thing is there's a difference between killing people and winning a war. Like, even if you can kill a huge number of people, it doesn't necessarily mean that wins the war. You win a war through objectives.
Well, we've learned that. The U.S., we've learned that. I mean,
you can't kill an idea, Jamal.
There you go.
Exactly.
You can't kill an idea.
You can't kill
one last question before I let you guys go. Do you think that, let's say Israel initiates an attack. The United States gets involved in that attack, also using the pretext of the Non-Proliferation Treaty as a justification for it, which is what they're going to do. They're going to be like, well, they pulled out the NPT, so we have the somehow transcendental justification to go in and attack Iran. Does Russia and China get involved in this?
Israel's not even a member of the NPT. See the hypocrisy there, Jamal?
Oh, I know.
In support of Iran, I think it's inescapable now that Russia will be full bore in support, even with the problem in Ukraine. And that's pretty much in hand now. They're just going to continue very slowly eating up and destroying the Ukrainian military to the last man, to the last rifle. So that's pretty much in hand. China is, I think, growing increasingly irritated and angry at the United States. I don't know if you saw those diplomatic exchanges between the Israeli emissary who went to Beijing to try and kind of calm China down. And the guy was in his face, absolutely in his face.
I did see that.
Yeah.
I did.
He said, "You're people. You killing lots of people. You killing men, women, and children. You killing babies."
Yeah, he got in his ass. He was like, "This is propaganda. I don't want to hear this."
It takes a lot to get a Chinese diplomat aroused like that.
I saw that. I didn't know if it was real at first. Well, let me just say this, Jamal.
It was real. It was real.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, I would tell you. I think it's man-made, but prophecy is before us. I honestly don't think. Once again, this is an opinion. I don't think Egypt is bluffing. With their buildup, because of the fact they can't afford to have to take in, all the refugees and so forth. I don't think they're bluffing. So, you throw in Egypt and you throw in Russia, you throw in China. I think it's man-made by Bibi, who thinks he's the Messiah. I think prophecy is before us, man-made, and I got to be quite frank. I'm really worried to where we're headed. I hope it all. I'm wrong and everything, but just the way things are just happening. And like I said, I think Bibi is a lunatic. I really do. I really do. And so I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm worried.
Gentlemen, I share your worry on this. We have religious lunatics with nukes. That is just terrifying on its own, right?
Good way to put it. It's a good way to put it.
I want to thank both of you for joining me. I always enjoy these conversations. I always learn something in these conversations. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for this. And just for the audience, Col Wilkerson, he is, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll do it that way. Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson. He is former distinguished visiting professor at the government and public policy at the College of William & Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. He also taught for 6 years in the University Honors Program at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. He is also probably best known as a retired United States Army colonel and former chief of staff for the United States Secretary of State Colin Powell. And we also have Dennis Fritz. He is retired Command Chief Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force. He is former director of the Eisenhower Media Network with the mission to promote peace and diplomacy over war. While on active duty, he served as principal senior advisor to 4-star commander at Pacific Air Force and Air Force Space Command. He has also held additional duty as senior enlisted advisor to the command of North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD. He is author of the book, Deadly Betrayal, The Truth About Why the United States Invaded Iraq. Check that book out. One of my other guests, Sarah Bills, she was raving about that book. She was like, oh my God, you have Command Chief Fritz here. Gentlemen, thank you for this. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day, okay?
Likewise, and thanks for having us.
You too, Jamal.
Bye-bye. All right. We have come to the end.